bet y'all didn't know I was an introvert. Like, you probably see me out here all over social media doing all of this fantastic stuff and have no idea, or y'all think I'm lying. But I am. I'm an introvert. I identify myself as an introvert. And in order to do some of the work that I do, I've had to come out of my shell quite a bit. Over the past couple of years, I've done a lot of like personal development work to validate my experience, to validate my voice being used in an experience, and also to acknowledge the strain that it takes to do this work, right? I remember when I first started my training course. So it's the Cannabis Nursing Solutions training course. And when I first started, it was an in-person course. It was 8 hours long. And I would sit there with a group of people and like, have this whole like experience set up for people. And I remember feeling exhausted, but I thought it was because I was actually doing stuff. It wasn't until the pandemic when I went to online and I recognized that it wasn't that. It was the amount of effort it took to express myself to a group of people. So when I was online, it still was 8 hours, and then I condensed it to 5 hours, trying to like consolidate my time a bit. And I couldn't figure out what it was. After I would do those training courses, it would be once a month online. I would be dead to the world for at least a day. I didn't want to do anything after I did all that work. I couldn't figure it out. Like, I would talk to my husband and he'd be like, but you were just on the computer all day. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm exhausted. I can't move. And I remember feeling this way when I was teaching clinicals too. And so, but I ignored it. So when it came to operating my business, like, there's no space to ignore how you innately respond to different things, right? So because you won't operate effectively if you do. You can't just kind of go off of fumes and think that you're going to do a really good job. And especially if you're the creator and the owner and the operator, right? And so I began having to do some self-reflection, identify patterns, be able to explore different ways that I felt good, different ways that I didn't feel good. And to be honest with you, I almost canceled the training course altogether because it was just so exhausting for me. And I remember somebody telling me, no, you cannot cancel that training course because people need that information. And the way that you deliver it, no, isn't like this detailed, robust training course. It's digestible and is implementable, and if that's a word, and people can use it, and it helps them to be able to better engage with their patients and leverage the nursing process in relation to cannabis medicine. And when I was told that, obviously I recognized the value in it. And so I had to find different ways. So I tried different things, trying to kind of take it off of my plate for 8 hours. For the first step was like to consolidate it to 5 hours, and then also taking people on and asking them to help me with teaching the class. And then now it is an on-demand program where you can access it in the Cannabis Nursing Solutions library. And since I've done that, I've expanded quite a bit, which may be apparent, it may not be apparent, and it may not. But I have now a program, a branding you program, and I do work as a clinical director as well. And just some other things, doing speaking engagements, and all those require me to express myself effectively. And the way that I began to, I guess, build the muscle was when I started doing improv. And for me, I didn't want to take like a cheesy like speech course. And if that's for you, that's for you. But I didn't want to do anything boring. Like for me, and if you're going to work with me too, I'm going to tell you, don't be boring. Do something exciting, something that excites you, rejuvenates you, makes you feel good. So I chose improv. And it was the best thing that I could have ever done. It was the most I ever laughed out loud in front of people and got feedback on like just being silly and being myself. And just showing up as myself. And that gave me like, it almost unlocked the door to my voice, or unlocked my expression of myself in front of people. And now I don't really feel nervous when I show up in front of groups of people. I feel confident with sharing a story, a silly story, a stupid story, sharing my successes and my wins, and all the things that make up my experience. I don't mind sharing it anymore. And even though it still remains an intentional, like I have to be very intentional about how often and the frequency and the intensity that I share, I can do it. And I feel good doing it. And I don't feel exhausted doing it. And if I do feel exhausted, I take breaks. I take time off. The way that I've created my business model, it takes into account the things that I need. And I have very specific boundaries on how accessible I am to people. So does that mean that I'm not accessible? No, it's very easy to access me as long as you understand what I have in place for you to access me. And everybody who does work with me, they know that. And when they meet me, they get all of me. They get everything. They get all of my experiences. They get all of the stories, right? And so being an introvert doesn't have to be a barrier to your success. You do not have to not talk because you're an introvert. You just need to cultivate all of that energy into very specific and targeted times and give them everything in one moment, and then withdraw in the moments that are meant for you. So I hope that's very helpful to all the introverts out there. It's funny. I'm noticing a pattern in that a lot of nurses actually identify as an introvert. And I think that, I don't know, this is an assumption. I could be absolutely wrong, but I think that the caring nature and the caring spirit that we have to offer requires that introversion and to be in tune and in touch with ourselves. And it actually is really a comfortable space. And we choose the method of caring for people as a way to express ourselves. And I find that a lot of healthcare providers and nurses tend to be on the water sign spectrum if you're into like astrology, like a Pisces or a Scorpio, things like that. But they also tend to identify as introvert. And I think that's really interesting. So I guess my question is, if you're listening to this, are you an introvert? Do you identify as introvert? Some people might be an extroverted introvert, or an introverted introvert, or an extrovert, or an extroverted introvert. I don't know. Did I say the same thing twice? I don't know, but I know there's different layers to it. I'm just being silly, y'all. But I know there's different layers to it. So I'm really interested, if you're a nurse or a healthcare provider, or maybe even not a healthcare provider, how do you identify? Do you identify as an introvert? Do you, are you on a water sign? Like, let me know in the comments, because this is something that I've been noticing lately, and I wonder how true it is. So I hope to hear from you soon. Thank you so much for listening. You can go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram at Cannabis Nursing Solutions. And if you haven't gotten a copy of the book Stigmatized, I definitely recommend that you go and get a copy. You can get it at www.stigmatizethebook.com.